And we're back. Welcome back to another episode of the Creator Sessions. Guys, thanks for coming in. I think this is going to be a bit more intimate. We've got John and Shona from the production team. We work a lot together, and yeah, nice to have you guys on the show.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So I think, today we wanted to kind of dive a little bit, probably just talk a little bit about the evolution that's been happening in the industry. There's been a lot of things that are changing, a lot of new technologies, and perhaps a lot of people might have feel like things are changing so fast that they might be left behind a little bit. There's of course the AI tools that have been coming out. Storyboards have been super easy to create with Midjourney and so many different platforms. To start with, how do you guys have seen already within the business, and from your point of view, the evolution of those tools integrating within our business as a production company?
I think the big integration that we're seeing already is from the creative point of view, from the developing ideas, getting people to buy into the concept, to engage with what we want to make. Ultimately, that brand, that partner, that client needs to say, yes, this is going to say what I need to say. This is going to talk to the audience that we want to talk to. And now with the visual capacity of the likes of Midjourney, with the copywriting capacity of ChatGPT, directors and content makers are able to bring that visual to life before we start pointing cameras and actually get on set, so they can get that buy-in and get that investment from the stakeholders. And we've never been in a stronger position than we are now to bring that visuals to life.
Agreed. And I think the beauty part of it is it's not just about bringing those frames to life, but in the way that the textures and you can go in so much detail, even to like position of the sun, the shadows. And that's something that we couldn't really capture too much when it comes to sketching out a storyboard. So you're getting a very much, I want to say pretty accurate representation of what you have in mind and what you're trying to like produce on set. And you could make it as accurate as possible if you invest the time in it, which then really eliminates any kind of guesswork when it comes to what the client or what the product will look like towards the end, because you could make it look very much the way that you want it to look after you've already shot the piece as well, which I think is beautiful.
And that leads into post-production as well. When you do get into post-production after filming, there's so many platforms now that help in terms of speeding up the color grading process. If someone's, there's the capability out there. If someone's closed their eyes in a shot, you can actually program it to have their eyes open. You've got simpler things like the voice AI. So if you need a narrative putting on a video, you've got that voice AI that you can choose your accent, your age, your gender, rather than...
And it would generate a voice for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I guess copyright and questioning what's real and what's not is going to be something that's going to trickle down the industry as well, because it is, there's a flood, really. It's like these gates have been opened and there's just a lot of content being produced by so many people now. You don't need to be, per se, a content creator. You just need to be interested in the technology and know how to prompt, and that's where we start finding like new positions opening up in the market, like a prompt engineer. What's a prompt engineer? Or like, somebody who can really communicate with these platforms and get the best out of them.
AI experts.
Exactly. Yeah. And that didn't even exist last year.
It's a new skill set for sure. It's also shows the importance of the human element though. Anyone who is thinking AI is going to take over the world and we're not required anymore. Even circling back to you talking about creating the visuals in a very specific sense, that comes from your own creativity, your own perception, your own vision. When you start talking about the lens you'd like to use on this shot, the lighting, the mood, that is going to take different prompts to what someone else would enter. So yes, there is an AI engine or a visualizer creating the image, but ultimately the inputs are still from you, the human. And for now anyway, the humans aren't going away. It's really important that AI, in my opinion, is an enhancement of what we can do. It's not a replacement. And what we should be doing, I think, is figuring out how best to incorporate it into our workflows and how best we use it to enhance the work we're doing.
Correct. Let's talk a little bit about that misconception, because I feel like a lot of maybe creatives and people in the industry, we've heard it so many times. The first thing is like, okay, here's another technology that might be taking our jobs. And to be fair, when you look at storyboard artists, for example, they got affected the most. They probably are out of business in a sense, right? But two aspects to this is what do you guys feel is a prerequisite for people to be able to stay up to date with the new technologies that are out there? And especially, let's imagine somebody who spent 10 years of their life learning how to animate, and now there are tools that you can just prompt it and animations happen in 10 minutes. That used to take people like 10 days maybe to create. And I feel like it's a bit of a mindset shift that everybody needs to start adopting, which is we need to go back to being students and, just being open to like learn new technologies. But in your sort of point of view, how do you feel, what are the main key learnings that people need to start adopting in their day-to-day to stay up to date?
It's a good question. I think that, firstly, I don't think anyone should feel that the learnings they have, the 10 years experience they have as an animator has now gone to waste. I think that if they take on board now the new technologies, that knowledge is going to allow them to manipulate and craft what they need now from the new technology in perhaps a better way. They'll understand the capabilities and the nuances of the prompts and the requests and the way to interact with the new platforms. So I think that's important. Even the sketch artist who's storyboarding, for me, the smartest ones will be very quick to adopt the mid journeys, etc., because it still takes time.
Productivity, right? It used to take you, for example, like a day to do 10 frames. Now you can have 10 clients and do 100 frames a day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's still a task that normally is outsourced, and is, the producers and the content makers, that they still need to have that task completed. So those storyboard artists can turn that out in a day and have multiple clients, and that's an opportunity rather than a negative.
100%. And I would say, if you are a storyboard artist that used to just do still imagery, for example, now it's a good time for you to start animating your frame, which you couldn't do before. So now you're offering a lot more than just, here's a still frame that's sketched in black and white. Now you're not an animator, but you could animate your frame. So looking at it as an opportunity, is that change in mindset is key for me, I think, because a lot of people look at something and it's the immediate response is, oh, here's a new thing. It's going to take away my market share or the way that I offer my services to the market. But in reality, how can you use those to upgrade your offering?
Yeah. I think with any job, the key thing is you should never stop learning. You should never stop expanding your skill set and exploring new things. And you might have 10 years experience, but there's still so much more to learn, and there's still 10 years to go kind of thing. So just keep learning, keep exploring. If there's new things coming in, it's like, okay, this is new. What can I do with it? How far can I take it? Always, I think, and especially for the industry professionals, always try and be one step ahead, like what's coming next. Because if I'm a professional in that, then people would need me and my knowledge when that comes into effect and it becomes popular.
Yeah.
I think that it's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
That's key. So getting on board now means you're going to be able to stay abreast of what's coming, because there's been things in the past like the metaverse recently, which was a big flash in the pan, but it's still relevant. I don't think it's gone away, but certainly the buzz and the hype was huge. This, I think, is a little bit different. It's like the internet again. I don't think
Redefine it.
we all believe this isn't going away in one way, shape, or form. So get on board and don't have a big task on your hands later on trying to catch up. Get on board now. Because it literally has only been a few months.
Yeah, and it can make your life easier, and it could provide you the opportunities as well. We've seen so many businesses being spun off from ChatGPT and using, for example, Luna, or using another image generative AIs. So there's the opportunities are massive to create something and let it run by itself, which wasn't possible 10 years ago as well. Yeah. So I think it's super important.
And it just takes one new product in the market to completely change the way that people absorb content and change the way that content needs to be created with the new glasses coming out. We don't know what that's going to have, but we know it's going to change the way that people
So which glasses are they?
I think the Apple ones, yeah. Nice. We were at an event the other day, and he was saying that this is really going to change the way that
in the future.
Augmented reality. So it takes one product like that, and we know with Apple, with the past history, those products come in and it completely changes the way even you create content. I mean, you've got iPhones now that shoot cinematic quality that's stabilized. It's incredible. So just doing your research on that and understanding what's coming will help you better prepare for the future.
Agreed. A funny thing I was thinking about yesterday or a couple of days ago is a simple app that's been recently created to create captions, for example. Let's think of the task and the time that editors used to take to just do subtitles and captions. And now, literally on my phone, I've got a couple of apps that just can create it in different styles, highlight keywords for you based on like, AI recommendations. And in a sense, it's a new opportunity for creators to think of these gaps and how can you use those tools to create offerings that make life easier for people and for creators. So I think the beautiful part there is the innovative part, the innovation aspect of it. And, once you kind of change your mindset from the victim to the creator, then it starts opening up a lot of new possibilities. And it's just amazing to see. I'm like, this used to take people like a day at least of work to animate, to highlight things, to at least a couple of hours. But now, literally in a couple of minutes, a 1-minute video is done, and you could, create it in so many different styles. So it's super beautiful to see. And back to your point, I think as soon as we get that one piece of equipment or tech that allows people to integrate with technology in a different way, then then that sort of everyone's going to have a phone. Like nobody used to have a phone, and now it's so accessible. Glasses could be the next thing. So it'll be interesting to see how the metaverse world, or even an augmented version of our world would operate.
I think they go hand in hand. I think there's been some brands, we remember Google Glass, it came out, they've tried to get ahead of the curve and seize that first move initiative. Meta did it with the Quest, and now the Quest 2 is out. That's a really powerful piece of kit, but we're not yet at a point where everyone wants to wear those types of big goggles and interact with them. Apple's version is meant to be far more slick and streamlined, and I think that with the AI advances mean that collectively there's going to be then content developed for that type of platform. So suddenly AR and VR, I think is exactly, it's going to be far more relevant and prevalent in terms of the type of content we make. We've spoke to Anthony Geffen, who talked about the experiences in AR and how they don't negate the real experiences. In fact, they enhance them. They allow people to have touch points at home, create a jungle and dinosaurs and creatures on their desk. It doesn't stop them wanting to then go to the Natural History Museum. In fact, that it increases the amount of people who want to go and see that then in real life. So I think the direction of content creation could shift in the next year using AI, but also using the AR and VR technologies that are about to come out.
100%. Yeah, no, I agreed. And I think, the way that we can imagine that augmentation happening is really enhancing the experience. It's enhancing our human experience, whether you're going to a concert and all of a sudden now the stage is coming to life, whether you're going to a fashion show and now you could actually select the item and buy it straight away. So it just allows for, new possibilities to unfold, which is going to be important for creators to keep an eye on and experiment with. Because like I said, sometimes it becomes a little bit too late. So the earlier you start adopting technologies and understanding how could you create for, let's say, an AR platform, what does that entail? What does that entail? Is it the tracking element? Is it the animation element? So get familiar with them, because as soon as they come, and they will come pretty quickly, then the need for that in the market becomes very very obvious as well. But let's take it back to the creative. We're all in the creative industry, and we like to make pretty things, right? Like anything that looks good is usually the nice flashy sort of element that we try to create. But if we try to take a step back and which we've been doing in the agency as well, is to validate the creative, to come up with an intelligent creative for our campaigns. How do you see that unfolding with the new AI technologies, or even without? The link between having a justified creative that allows the client to see the ROI clearly when it comes to the execution part, and also distribution of that piece.
I think we just touched on it a bit there with the fashion example, and it's trying to take the insights. If we know there's an audience for it, you start building and thinking about content in a way that does it facilitate the need. So we need to take data. That's important. I think that cool ideas will always be cool, but let's make sure that the cool idea is relevant to the audience and the people we want to talk to, and that data then gives you the insights to give direction to where your idea is going. I think that if we can assess who's looking at this piece, who's looking at this brand, and what do they typically do? What are their interests? What do they like to get involved with? Other brands do they like?
Yeah.
I think that then gives you confidence in your creative. So we all believe in our idea, but it's far more compelling to talk about that idea, to present it, pitch it, and justify it when it's on the back of something firm and concrete that can't be disputed. You remove an element of subjectivity by basing that concept and creative on a insight, but then the subjectivity does come from your own idea. But then that's the enjoyment of the job, right? So if the bedrock is good insight, then the idea can flourish.
And I think it's also about where and how that content is going to be absorbed. Like a lot more now within our creatives, you've got your hero campaign idea. In the beginning, previously, we used to create cut downs and trailers from the hero video. That's shifting now because shorts and short form content is a lot more popular and absorbed. You've got the YouTube shorts that are very popular now. So now within the creative concept stage, we're crafting content specifically for those platforms before we go to shoot, rather than having it as an afterthought.
True. And I still, we still see that, unfortunately, with the bigger sets, for example, and the bigger sort of productions, it's still, in a sense, sometimes it's still mainly about that big hero piece. And they're not producing for the smaller cut downs first. And the way I see this is, the smaller pieces of content, the vertical content, whether it lives on Reels or YouTube Shorts, it's your massive net that's going to allow for people to come and watch your, elaborate 2-minute, 3-minute video. So if you don't have those hooks that interest people to come and watch your big piece, then you're kind of just pushing more money on your main asset, hoping for people to convert. And there's an organic machine that can serve you if you're playing with the organic machine right, which is then leveraging those vertical videos. But then understanding that you can't just create a cut down from your main piece, you've got to engage with that audience in a different way, because the way that they're engaging with the content is different. Their thumb is on the screen. So like literally these guys are watching this piece like this. They're not watching it like this, like they're ready to go. So
and it's that viral factor as well, like viral videos. When you hear about things going viral now, it goes viral from those phone apps, from the Reels, from the TikToks, from the Shorts.
And even if we think about it, when was the last time somebody shared on our personal pages or our friends, for example, a 10-minute video on their stories? They would share a reel because it's quick, it engages people, it delivers a message. But I don't see many people sharing like hey, go watch this 10-minute. Yeah. It could be if it was an amazing documentary, yes, but like on the day-to-day, everyone's sharing reels a lot more than like long-form content. So it doesn't negate the importance of long-form content, but I feel like the short form is where people get interested and then convert to the long.
Yeah.
And if I think for brands, if you only focus on the short form and don't deliver long form, that's going to be a shallow engagement with the audience. It's almost just like giving people sweets and there's no main course. It's like we're just kind of like here's some appetizers, but we don't have a main course really. So yeah.
It's true, that user journey, everyone's obsessed with snackable content. Yeah. And the same analogy, you need to give them a meal as well. It's true. The most innovative brands are and should be thinking about dedicated content for platforms that resonate with the audience on those platforms.
Yeah.
Going back to your point, the thumb's on the screen. But, I think the numbers say about 40% of people are doing that while watching TV as well. So you're competing with two screens and their thumb on one of them. Yeah. So that's how ready they are to move on. Yeah. So you have to create that quick, appetizing, snackable content that gets their attention, but in a way that generates interest and then gets them on the journey and says, I'd like to know more about that.
Correct.
And take them on that route to the longer form where you can really hit home with your messaging and the power of that.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing I found sometimes to be valuable as well is as creatives and creators, we get hit with a block, right? It's easy. It's not easy. It's natural. It's part of the process. Sometimes you are not so inspired, and sometimes the floodgates are open and ideas are coming through. And then the use of technologies like ChatGPT or anything else really from a visual aspect is very helpful to try and use those platforms as almost like a brainstorm buddy, if you want. But what we see quite often is people just take those ideas the way they are and they don't add their personal spin on it. And then it becomes stale. It just becomes like, you can see through it almost. And we've had that experience as well. So I think as creatives, it's important to use the tools to get inspired, but don't forget to put your own flavor on it,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're not doing anything.
Yeah. That's what makes it different, and that's what keeps it interesting, is your own creative
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
It needs to be your work, and if your imprint on it isn't there, then why are we doing it? You can still be proud of something, even if an AI platform like ChatGPT has helped craft the language, because you can ask it for that. That's what's cool, right? The first response looks like this. Then you can say, can we say it more like this? Can we take this tone? Can we aim it more at 9-year-olds? Can we, there's opportunity there to shift the response.
Yeah.
And take a sentence of it and ask it to reword it.
Yeah.
Add some more dialogue. Let's get these people talking to each other.
So let's talk about your experience with that, because I know that you've created a kid's book with your daughter.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that journey.
It was brilliant.
First of all, John is not a writer.
I'm not far from.
He's about to become a published author.
Yeah, I was Amazon link in the bio description. Yeah. No, I just said, look, my daughter's 9, my oldest daughter's 9, and I said, let's write a book. And she couldn't believe I was asking this question. And I said, okay, just come up with an idea. As you would expect, a sweet 9-year-old came up with unicorns and rainbows in a world full of sweets and candy.
Yeah. Sounds
and you input that into ChatGPT. Let's write a book about a young girl living we call her Rosie, where she's from, her parents live in London, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, there's a whole story about her going to sleep, dreaming of this world with trees, with cotton candy branches and things, and rainbow rivers of sweets. And we then took it a step further, and like I said, we really challenged it. And I said, well, let's make sure this is good for kids. So let's write it so it's suitable for a 6-year-old. Let's have some dialogue between our main protagonist, Rosie, and the unicorn she's just met.
And that's the human element that we're talking about.
And this is it. And then before you know it, so we're getting responses about the conversation they're having, about the king that lives on top of the mountain. And, my daughter's eyes are widening with every response. And she's like, this is amazing.
And I think the beauty there also is the fact that you've just allowed her to really open up her mind about what could be possible to create at that age. I remember when I was 9, I was probably just kicking a ball on the street. But at that age to be aware of the possibilities of creativity and creation is beautiful.
And it was really nice to see.
Yeah.
To see the opportunity sort of unfold itself in front of her eyes. And then we went to Midjourney, and then she starts putting in prompts about young girl, rainbow river, and things like that. And you can imagine what it produced.
So when is the book coming out?
Soon.
We'll link it to the audience. But no, I think it's honestly like a beautiful way to start planting the seeds with the younger generation to the possibilities of the technology and integrating with technology as well.
Start helping them grow their imagination.
Yeah.
I think something that, especially with kids now, you're so scared about them getting lost in like tablets and YouTube and all of this. I think that's a really fun way for them to kind of take a seed and like you said, that imagination grows into something bigger and bigger. And as they get older, it can help craft their kind of like career path.
And I could only imagine her at some point going back to school with her friends and saying, look what I just created, right? So I think that proud moment as well to a creative act that she's created something becomes a very nice very nice intention and wave to start. So
it's the world they're going to live in, right? We have to kind of embrace it and give them exposure to it now, and this was a nice way to do that.
Agreed. Yeah. So I think in closing, what are the platforms and sources that we want to recommend for our listeners to stay up to date, to stay open-minded, and to integrate new tools and technologies in their day-to-day?
There's so many. I think my advice would be to try to find good aggregators. Illuna.ai is one I look at, and they seem to pull a lot together. So there's regular posts on Instagram, etc., that just talks about this new technology, this new platform can help you with audio, can help you with coloring, etc. Because it's moving so fast, to try and keep track of every single one is hard. So an aggregator like that would be my advice for sure.
And I would say even because there's so many different niches that AI caters to. So if you are an engineer, for example, I'm sure what we're looking at is completely different than what an engineer would look at. If you're a colorist and animator, there's an entire sort of like spectrum of tools and softwares that will help you there as well. But the beautiful thing is we've also started seeing established softwares like DaVinci Resolve and other editing suites that start integrating AI tools within them. So it's truly getting integrated everywhere. But I agree. I think an aggregator is a good place to start.
And I think also getting involved in that creator kind of community more and more now that we see there's workshops on this AI platform and there's workshops on that. And I think going to those workshops, meeting other creatives and just being involved in that community really helps you explore the different apps and different ways that people are working and using things.
And my recommendation would be to get on Discord, because a lot of the the new releases will start on Discord, and then you get first access to them before even the public. I mean, Midjourney is still using it off Discord, right? So get on Discord to be able to truly have a hand on the pulse in terms of what's happening in the industry. Guys, thanks for spending the morning. I hope the listeners have enjoyed this conversation. There's a lot of gems, a lot of takeaways. Until the next one, see you soon.